Well, this week, South Korea held its first ever summit with African countries, 48 of which participated in the leaders' meeting and business summit.
Africans. You heard that, right? You heard the lady. Yes, you did. She said, and I quote, in case you missed it, she said, this week, South Korea held its first ever summit with African countries, 48 of which participated in the leaders' meeting and business summit. End quote. You heard that? South Korea Africa Summit. 48 out of the 54 countries in Africa were present in a South Korea Africa Summit, not Asia Africa Summit, South Korea. Now, I don't know if you fully understand the enormity of this ignoble and despicable show of shame. You may think that this video is an emotional reaction to noise, because I've heard this before. But before you vilify me, let's hear what this doll baby of a journalist said. Let's take another listen. Let's continue.
I want to ask you, what is the significance of cooperating on critical minerals?
Well, that's a great question, Eugene. It's significant for both countries.
Now stop. There. Did you hear that? No? No? Let's rewind.
I want to ask you, what is the significance of cooperating on critical minerals?
Well, that's a great question, Eugene. It's significant for both countries.
There. You heard it, right? She said it's significant for both countries. Both countries. Can you do the math? You see, in other words, South Korea is one country, and then 48 African countries are condensed, compressed, and compacted into one country. Hence the determiner both countries. You see, now in 2024, African leaders still packed themselves like sardines into one small, tiny shuttle bus in South Korea to attend Korea Africa Summit. A summit where South Korea has pledged billions of dollars in aid to Africa. A time when our leaders should prioritize negotiating deals that focus on economic and technological development rather than relying on aids, which continues to perpetuate dependency. Our leaders went to South Korea to seek for aids. In fact, South Korea pledged to increase its official development assistance to Africa to $10 billion by 2030, 6 years from now. You see? Now, do you know what that means? I'll tell you. What it means is that none of the African leaders lined up here are thinking of leaving office before 2030. So if you think President Ahmed Tinubu, Alassane Ouattara, Paul Kagame, Sassou Nguesso, and those other presidents, African presidents, if you think they are going to be voted out of office before 2030, then you should think twice. Because these guys, these old dudes, will do anything to make sure they are still there, they are still in power when the money comes. And this is why they don't leave office. In 2024, African leaders still fail to understand that aid dependency does not lead to sustainable development. How long should we continue to ask for aid instead of focusing on strategic investments and mutual partnership that will enhance economic self-reliance? No, they won't do that. They are flying all around the globe, attending summits, all manner of summits. France Africa Summit, US Africa Summit, Germany Africa Summit, UK Africa Summit, Russia Africa Summit, China Africa Summit, Indian Africa Summit, and the list goes on. All manner of summits. Our leaders have debased and degraded Africa to the level where any Dick and Harry country outside Africa can have a summit with the whole of Africa. One country would have a summit with the whole of Africa. I have never heard of or seen any Nigeria Europe summit or Rwanda North America summit. In fact, even at our own African Union summit, right? Europeans are always in attendance. In our own African Union summit, Europeans attend. Europeans, even Israel, attend our African Union summit. Have you ever heard of or seen any African leader at any EU summit? Tell me one African leader. Have you ever questioned the rationale behind a single country holding a summit with an entire continent, especially when the benefits seem disproportionately skewed in favor of the Western nations that are holding these summits with Africa? Let's take a deeper look, okay, at some of the issues, some of the problems this current model of continent-wide summits presents for Africa. Let's look at it, okay? First, inequitable focus. Now, although all African countries have one similar problem, that is bad leadership, right? We know, two problems. Bad leaders and corruption. These are the similar problems Africa have. And apart from these similar problems, we have diverse problems. Now, these Africa and whatever country summits often address broad, generalized problems that may not cater to the specific needs of individual African countries, right?